Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about energy in life and these three little letters ATP. So when we talk about how organisms get energy, we need to think about organisms from what we've already talked about. So think way back to chapter 3 and 4, we talked about an autotroph. And if we remember, an autotroph is something that automatically makes its own food or makes its own energy. So things like plants, flowers, trees, these things use sunlight to make their own energy. A heterotroph, on the other hand, has to gain energy by eating food, corn, hay, apples, things like that. So we take in all of this food and we turn it into energy, or what we're going to call ATP. Now, if we look at the bigger picture here, all living things need energy to live. We already said that plants get their energy from the sun, and we get energy, or animals get energy, from the food that we eat. Now, if we think back to chapters 3 and 4, the energy that isn't used is released as something. Remember, we said that 10% of the energy that we eat gets passed or gets used. The other 90% will either get released as heat or it can be stored as fat. Now, in order for autotrophs and heterotrophs to get this energy, they go through two different processes, photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Photosynthesis is for plants. So on your paper, if you need to write down plants under photosynthesis, go ahead and do that. So if we look at the word photosynthesis and break it down, photo means light and synthesis means to make. So if we put that into a definition, the plants are using sunlight to make sugar or make their own food. Cellular respiration is what humans and animals go through. Now, if we break down this word, cellular, we're talking about cells. But respiration, we're not talking about respiration like when we breathe. We're talking about respiration that our cells are going to be going through. So we're taking the food that we eat and we're changing it into ATP energy. It's a type of energy that our body uses. Remember, if you need to hit pause to copy this information down, please do so. Now, living organisms need energy. We need energy for tons of things that are happening within our body. We need energy to work. Now, work is a very general term, so this includes chemical activities. So these are things like when our neurons are firing off signals to our brain because something is too hot, or hormones being released into our bodies. Our bodies are growing. This also requires energy. Movement, this requires energy. Think about when you're running. You can get really tired really fast if you did not eat food that morning or you did not have enough sustenance to keep your body going. Reproduction, it takes a lot of energy to grow a little tiny baby. Repair, same thing from when you get hurt. You need to rest when you get hurt. Your body needs to repair itself. This is either when you have a broken bone or possibly even when you are sick. And even when you sleep, you are using energy. Your body is constantly functioning. And though you think you're resting when you sleep, your body is working probably its hardest. Working to keep your brain functioning, your heart pumping, your lungs going, so you're breathing, but it's also making sure that all of your cells are functioning properly. Everything in your body is still working when you sleep. Now, chemical energy, when we talk about this, it's the energy that we eat. So that burger from McDonald's, we're taking that energy from the food that we eat and we're turning it into chemical energy in our body. So chemical energy is just saying that it's the energy that's found in food. We look at calories as the energy. Now, when chemical energy is eaten, or when we're taking in food, when that food starts to break down, it's actually forming bonds between one another. And in order for our bodies to get the energy from the food that we just ate, those bonds need to break and the energy is then released into our body. Now, if our body doesn't need that energy, it's going to store it. So again, when you eat that burger, you're chewing it, you're breaking it down. And as our bodies start to break down those chemical bonds between the burger and the bun and the lettuce and the cheese, it's releasing energy within our bodies. Now, the big part with this is that we are changing glucose into ATP. Now, glucose is just a fancy word for sugar. So think about when you are tired, you want to eat something that has sugar, like a Snickers, or you want to drink a Monster drink that has sugar, because sugar gives you energy. When we talk about ATP, that's what ATP is. ATP is energy. So ATP, though it's three letters, it has a really fancy science name. It's called adenosine triphosphate. A for adenosine, T for tri, P for phosphate. So what does ATP do for you? Well, it supplies you with energy. It's from the food that we eat. Now, the ATP molecule is made up of three things: adenine, which is a nitrogen group, ribose, which is a sugar group, and then three phosphates. That's where we get this triphosphate, because tri, like a tricycle, has three wheels. A triangle has 3 points. So triphosphate has three phosphate groups. 1, 2, 3. Now, when we release this energy, the ATP releases a phosphate. So the bond we talked about earlier, the bond between the last phosphate and the second phosphate is broke, and it shoots off into the body. So when it does that, when that bond breaks, the energy is released, and we are now left with just 2 phosphates. This third one has been released somewhere completely else in our body. Think about ATP like a Nerf toy. If I have a Nerf toy and I shoot that Nerf dart across the room, okay, that energy has now been released from that Nerf dart, and that other one is across the room now. That's kind of how ATP works. We're releasing that phosphate off. Now, when we do that, we don't have ATP anymore. We don't have 3 phosphates. We have 2. So we now have a DP. So all this is ATP minus 1 phosphate. So we have adenosine diphosphate, because we have 2 phosphate groups. Di is 2. So now we're going to review really quick the ATP cycle. On the side of your paper, I want you guys to write down this section right here on the left-hand side where you have room. It says the ATP cycle is how blank is released into your body. We are releasing energy. Energy is released into your body. So we start off with ATP at the top here. ATP at the top. This means that we have 3 phosphates. Because it is adenosine triphosphate. So we have 3 phosphates in this spot. So with ATP, we are releasing energy. Our bodies need energy. So we are going to lose, so we're going to say minus 1 phosphate. You can put just P, or if you want to write out phosphate, you can. So we're losing a phosphate when we are releasing energy. So that's what this little burst of energy is here. Little burst of energy sent to any part of our body. It's exciting. Energy, yay. So energy being sent to some part of our body when we lose a phosphate. Now, when we lose a phosphate, we become a DP. A DP is adenosine diphosphate. So that means I'm going to have 2 phosphates. Now, I want to be able to reuse this ADP molecule. I want to come back up, as you guys can see here, I want to come back up to ATP. In order for me to do that, we need to think about how you can get energy within your body. So think about when you're really tired, when you're really sluggish, how do you get some energy? You have to eat food. Doesn't matter what kind of food you eat, you just need to eat something. Eat some type of food to give yourself energy. So when you eat food, we gain a phosphate back. So we gain 1 phosphate. When we gain 1 phosphate, that brings me back up to ATP, where now I have 3, and I can release that third one off again. So again, we go through this whole cycle. Now again, this is happening in all parts of your body, not just your brain. It's happening in your fingers, your arms, your legs, your stomach, your back, because every single part of your body needs energy.